The embrace of the divine shatters the limits of our ego. The ego feels it's locked in the embrace as a wrestler and suffers and feels the pain. But the soul rejoices because it feels a sense of liberation. There are only two ways that we can meet the divine in this arena of the world. Either the locked embrace of the wrestler or the embrace of the lover. In both cases, the ego will be crushed. But the difference is, when we meet him as a wrestler, we experience a lot of pain and a sense of struggle. And when we meet him as a lover, we experience the delight every time something falls away from us. The Divine Mother comes to give this world such an embrace. And what the world gives back is its littleness and smallness, and throws upon it all that is hidden inside it, the cosmic pain. If fire has come and touched men's hearts and gone, if you have caught flame and risen to greater life, too unlike the world she came to help and save. This is what has been the story so far. There is a nice story about when G.B. Shaw was asked, how many Christians are there in the world? He said, I know of only one. And they crucified him. And it's so true of everyone. Every time the divine comes, what we do, we turn him into a cult, a creed, a religion, a ritual, and we leave behind the real truth for which he comes, to liberate us, to make us grow into a greater life. That we don't accept. And Sri Aurobindo and the mother were well aware of this problem. In one of the early conversations, it is documented, the mother asked Sri Aurobindo, Lord, do you think the earth is ready and man is ready? And Sri Aurobindo says, if we wait for man to be ready, he will never be ready. We have to make humanity ready. This process of making humanity ready is the purifying fire through which humanity has to pass through. In one of her writings, later writings, after the supramental descent has taken place, the mother says, she says in little cryptic words but more or less very directly, that she had heard that human beings have this problem, that problem of shelter, of food and clothing and all this. So she thought, let me provide all this and see how humanity responds, so that they can be left free of all these problems and can turn to the divine. And then she says, but my experience has not been very good. Humanity does not turn to the divine just because all its needs are satisfied. That is Maslow's theory and the theory of some other great men. But it's not true. When humanity has these needs satisfied, it says, give me more of that. We have the story of Shiva coming down to earth. Parvati keeps telling him, why you don't go out down to earth and help human beings? Shiva says, you don't know. You please don't talk all this. You watch the world too much. Let me remain happy in my trance. And she says, no, you see, so many people are crying. Shiva again tells her, you see, don't behave like deluded souls on earth. You stay quiet. But she nudges him, as is her nature and as is her heart of love. So she nudges Shiva and Shiva says, okay, I'll show you what is the problem. So they have a discussion before that, and she says, you see, you think people don't remember God and don't want delight. See, they are struggling with money, daily needs. If they have this, they will definitely turn to God. He says, okay, I'll go down to the poorest of the poor. This is a word nowadays, a big phrase. So he goes to the poorest of the poor. There is a small little hut with a half broken cot and one single earthen pot in the house, and there is a beggar in the hut. And Shiva says, attired as a holy man, he says, what is your problem? He says, look, this is my difficulty. Oh, this, I can change all this. He says, oh, you must be God to do all this. So Shiva says, very simple. What is it? Tell me. I can turn things into gold. You will have enough riches. He says, oh, can you make this earthen pot gold? Because he wants first a demonstration. How will he believe? So Shiva points a finger and that earthen pot turns into gold. He says, now your problem is over. With this earthen pot, you can live the rest of your life. Now I'll tell you the great secret of joy, and I'll tell you how to find God. He said, no, wait, please. That we'll talk about later. You see, my cot is in a bad shape. Can you, that finger, just show it to the cot? Shiva says, okay. The cot turns gold. So now I'll tell you how to delight. No, sir, you see, in this hut, this cot and this thing doesn't look nice. So the hut turns into gold. Shiva says, now I'll tell you, now with this much, all your 7 generations will have no problems. Now I'll tell you how by taking the name of God you can find delight. This man is nonplussed, looking constantly at Shiva. So Shiva says, what do you want now, my child? He says, see, all these big lectures about God and delight, please, you can give to someone else. Can you just leave your finger here and go away? That is our way. We want the divine constantly to give us our littleness, to strengthen our bars of ignorance. And so long the divine does that, he is divine. The day he says, okay, you have been in kindergarten for a long time, do some exercise. As someone, when he wrote to Aurobindo that I have a desire for this, eating this, Aurobindo writes back, eat your desire. So when that stage of schooling comes, when Aurobindo must tell us, eat your desire, then we say, Lord, why are you being so cruel and harsh? After all, it's a sweet desire for some sweets. And you are giving me diabetes? This is not correct. I have worked for you, served you. This is our littleness. And we should see everything as a grace. But when the divine comes, he plays this game with us. Someone asked Aurobindo that why then does the divine satisfy our desires sometimes? He says he does it so that one day man will start desiring the one who is the fulfiller of all this. But man does not want that. And therefore, we have this touching line. Too unlike the world, she came to help and save. Her greatness weighed upon its ignorant breast. The touch of the divine weighs heavy upon us. Take away this load. Let us do what we feel like. Why do you constantly, keep telling us, get rid of ego, get rid of desire? Can't you say something simpler? It's weighs upon our ignorant breast. Her greatness weighed upon its ignorant breast, and from its dim chasms welled a dire return. A portion of its sorrow, struggle, fall, to live with grief, to confront death on her road. The mortal's lot became the immortal's share. Someone asked this question once, Christ was God. Why didn't he save himself? The beauty is that if Christ saved himself and ran away like any of us, he would not be God anymore. If Socrates had to run away from the prison because Crito had arranged a nice escape from him by bribing all the jailers, Socrates would no longer have the authority to say what he said. And we see in the life of Sri Aurobindo, when he is asked, how can we understand that you are having what some people have called as physical illness, when we have seen with your look, you have cured many people? What would the Lord say? He says, can't explain, you won't understand. Can't explain, you won't understand. And what was he doing? Like a Shiva, drinking the poison that had come out from the breast of the world, from the heart of the world pain. It's a most formidable task. And in one of the earlier letters, when someone asked Sri Aurobindo that I want to be part of to help you in your work and your mission, Sri Aurobindo writes, you know what it means? Who can help in this work and the mission? It means to be able to share a whole world of difficulties, to share the world mission and the work of the Lord. It means to be able to stand in the battlefield with all kinds of arrows whizzing past you, with death smiling at you at each moment, and yet not tremble, because we know that the Lord is there. He is the charioteer leading us. What we can do instead, as Mother has said, don't try to push the load. Already divine consciousness is finding it difficult enough to carry this. You sit in the wagon and you will be carried. This is given to man. If we want to help in the work, is too big a word, because humanity is not made of that stuff. A portion of sorrow, struggle, fall, to live with grief, to confront death on her road. The mortal's lot became the immortal's share. So Savitri must confront death. So Sita must face abandonment. So Christ must hang upon the cross, because the mortal's lot became the immortal's share. So the mother should go through all those pains and agonies which human nature confronts. And the irony of it all is that all these pains which she bore for us, we have the cheek to doubt. You are divine, how you are experiencing pain? This is humanity. And yet she is bearing all that for our sake. And it's in a great love. What will she tell us? Because she knows this play is nothing else but her play. The mortal's lot became the immortal's share. Thus trapped in the gin of earthly destinies. Trapped in the gin of earthly destinies. There are two kinds of spirituality. There is one where we go beyond the law of earth nature and we take our station up, act from there. We become a saint, a seer, a sage, and people look up to us, and from there we act. We remain free of problems, free of illness, free of difficulties. The other is we go under the yoke of the law because we want to change the law. That's a much greater task, a heroic task. And the mother not only goes under the yoke of law, she goes into the very roots from where the law springs up. Thus trapped in the gin of earthly destinies. It's amazing, we see Sri Aurobindo's early letters where Sri Aurobindo speaks about the great financial problems that he's going through. He's literally, they don't know what's going to happen the next moment. That famous letter, now well known, I suppose, where Sri Aurobindo writes that I know I have two annas which will carry us through maybe till tomorrow. I know God will provide, but he has contracted a bad habit of providing in the very end. He knew what it means. Sometimes we say, what does God know about 2 square meal problem that human beings face? Well, God will say, I have faced it. I know very well. What is the problem of 2 square meals? What do you know about kapda? We don't have even dress to wear. He will say, I know it. Because between the 12 of us, there was just one towel and we have used it. The mother has worn patched sarees. But to us, we ask her, Mother, we need this. And a whole Kubera's treasures open their doors. People speak about it. That how the mother's intervention has provided riches. Everything has come. And these are not just stories of faith. They are real stories. A blessing, a little touch, and doors of wealth and treasures opened. Problems disappeared, but for herself, sell my saris so that the ashram can run. The mortal's lot became the immortal share. It's only the divine can understand and explain this Leela, that why he has to become like us, suffer as if he is so helpless, so weak. Thus trapped in the gin of earthly destinies, awaiting her ordeal's hour abode, outcast from her inborn felicity, accepting life's obscure terrestrial robe, hiding herself even from those she loved, the Godhead greater by a human fate. Such a marvelous line which only can fill our hearts with gratitude. Accepting life's obscure terrestrial robe. When we leave lesser things for higher things, when we leave our littleness for that which will give us delight, we call it sacrifice. Such a beautiful term we have coined. And we say, look, I have sacrificed this, I have sacrificed that. Somebody will say, what is sacrifice in it? You are experiencing delight and peace. That's why Mother says, in our yoga, there is no room for what we call as sacrifice. Because as long as you have that sense that you are leaving something, that means you are still attached to it. It should be the most natural expression. What is the divine asking us? To give our littleness, and what he will give in return? Vastness. No bad bargain. What he is asking us? Get rid of the ego. What he will give in return? Our true spiritual identity, the immortal self. Where is the problem? Sacrifice is a word only divine can use. That's why Sri Krishna says, by sacrifice I hold these people together. By sacrifice I manage this world and create this world. It is the divine alone who sacrifices. He leaves that delight, that peace, that joy, that beauty, that light, and descends into suffering, this mold into which the very presence, you get into this bag and all kinds of ills come to us. And that is sacrifice. And yet, that makes the divine more divine. Here the line is the Godhead greater by a human fate. Elsewhere, Sri Aurobindo uses another line, a God come down and greater by the fall. The perfect sign of Godhead. The perfect sign of Godhead is not that he lives in that sphere where men somehow march up and offer him worship and nice things and he blesses. The greater sign of Godhead is that he descends into our mortality, walks amidst us like one of us, and touches us by his life. A God come down and greater by the fall. The Godhead greater by a human fate. Such is also the paradox of human life. That on the one side, to take birth in the human body is to invite a lot of pain, suffering, struggle as a natural part of it. But on the other hand, it's a more complete realization. And that's what the divine intends. The Godhead greater by a human fate. Savitri doesn't become less because she suffers like us. She becomes greater because she suffers like us. Sri Aurobindo and the mother don't become less because we see them that, well, Sri Aurobindo came and we see that he also had what we human beings call as illness. Sri Aurobindo becomes greater because he accepts that on himself. Otherwise, he would be only a Sri Aurobindo living on some ivory towers, mountain tops. That is the greatness. The Godhead greater by human fate. A dark foreknowledge separated her, from all of whom she was the star and stay. It directly reminds us of Sri Aurobindo and the mother's life. How till the end, nobody knew what is the great drama going on. Some people had a little inkling around 2nd December that probably Sri Aurobindo has decided to withdraw. Of course he knew. And yet, she would not share it. What the divine undergoes, how he keeps the pain inside. Through the persona of Savitri, Sri Aurobindo is bringing it out. A dark foreknowledge separated her, from all of whom she was the star and stay, too great to impart the peril and the pain. In her tone depths, she kept the grief to come. This is the sign of greatness. How Sri Aurobindo is telling us the inner being of Savitri is made of what metal. It's very easy to keep crying out our pain and our difficulties and our problems to everyone in the world. But the real sign of greatness is to keep that within and yet be smiling, full of trust and hope. There is elsewhere, when Sri Aurobindo describes Savitri, he speaks about her as the great are strongest when they stand alone. How she stands alone with that might inside, confronting death, as one who watching over men left blind, takes up the load of an unwitting race, harboring a foe whom with her heart she must feed. Unknown her act, unknown the doom she faced, unhelped she must foresee and dread and dare. In one of her passages, the mother says, human nature is such, human ignorance is such, that it recognizes grace only when it sees something was going to happen and it has been removed away. In front, we meet with an accident and nothing happens to us. We say it's grace. We don't see how many times we have been saved without knowing that a calamity was nearing us. And such is the divine intervention in life. We don't know how many times this world would have been thrown into the inferno of a third world war. That humanity may have been destroyed several times over. What Sri Aurobindo and the mother would tell. And we see how they have intervened. But when we hear their stories, they always give delight. They give delight to us. They gave that joy and delight to everyone. But what things they were seeing, what things they were working out in earth nature, Sri Aurobindo says it's like one left behind to watch over a blind race. We are blinded. We don't know. We don't know what cosmic forces, cosmic powers, adverse forces, hostile forces. We have only heard and we misuse them. Whomever we don't like is a hostile force. That is our littleness. Because we don't know what truly is a hostile force. So whenever we don't like somebody is a little rude and rough to us, we say, here is a hostile force. Somebody is very nice to us, he is a godlike being. So sweet he is. But that is our childishness. How they have seen in the Second World War, even within their own group of people who loved her and loved them, they had to write and explain that look, this is not an ordinary war. And we know only little bit of what they have told us. On how many fronts, at how many levels, in how many ways they have intervened in the lives of sadhaks, in the lives of the group, in the life of the nation. And what the nation returns back? Oh, Aurobindo can keep his advice to himself. That is like a post-dated check. This is how humanity responds. As one left blind, as one who watching over men left blind, takes up the lead of an unwitting race, harboring a foe whom with her heart she must feed. Unknown her act, unknown the doom she faced, unhelped she must foresee and dread and dare. In Savitri's life, this foe is death, and she is feeding her every day that dark foreknowledge. Now it comes close, now it comes close. The dread is coming close. And how the mother and Aurobindo, we can all the time see that, how they feed that adversary. Why? So that it may change within us. One day it will respond to that love. One day it will respond to that love. Harboring a foe, whom with her heart she must feed. Unknown her act, unknown the doom she faced. Unhelped she must foresee and dread and dare. The long foreknown and fatal morn was here, bringing a noon that seemed like every noon. Now Aurobindo brings us full circle. He brings us to the day when Satyavan must die, that Savitri has woken up, and all this is a background. The great world mother has come to wrestle with death and fate. All this background is remembered. She is not just, Satyavan is not dying helplessly. It is a thing she has willed so that the man's load can be taken upon by her. And now comes that fatal morn, bringing a noon that seemed like every noon. For nature walks upon her mighty way, unheeding when she breaks a soul, a life. Leaving her slain behind, she travels on. Man only marks, and God's all-seeing eyes. We had the great tsunami. The morning was like every other morning. Everybody planned all kinds of things. And suddenly, a few moments, and a whole lakhs of people were suddenly washed away. And the next moment, the sea was quiet again. It carried on with its regular rhythm, regular activities. When someone asked Mother some time back about these natural catastrophes, are the result of sin or bad karmas, etc., etc. She says, my child, when you walk over the earth, do you think about the little ants that you are pressing under your feet? It's such a different vision altogether. When the tsunami comes, there is a whole count. Thousands and lakhs have gone. For thousands of years, man has devoured the creatures of the land and the creatures of the sea. There is no count how many thousands and millions he has deprived. This is the way, but nature walks. When it walks, it's one giant step. And as long as man remains governed by the law of the mass, as long as his nature is driven by these subconscious forces, nature will walk over him, trampling him under its feet. And much later he will say, oh, that happened on so and so day. Man only marks and God's all-seeing eyes. But nature has moved on. In fact, nature has moved on, and even those whom it has swallowed, it has carried further on their onward journey. Those who were left behind, hurts and other things have come up for them. Their griefs have been taken away from their hearts. Nature works in strange ways. It moves, leaving its slain behind. Man only marks. This is not to belittle the human pain. This is just to put things in a much larger context. And yet Savitri must face that pain which man undergoes, because it knows nature walks like that. It tramples over everything and walks. Even in this moment of her soul's despair, in its grim rendezvous with death and fear, no cry broke from her lips, no call for aid. She told the secret of her woe to none. Calm was her face, and courage kept her mute. Again we find these twin aspects of Savitri, calm and courage, the hallmark of greatness. Calm, courage, when she is confronting death, confronting fear, confronting the hard touch of fate. Calm was her face, and courage kept her mute. Yet only her outward self suffered and strove. Even her humanity was half divine. We are all aspirants for a divine humanity, and Aurobindo is telling us, even to become a human being who is some reflection of half divinity is in him, is to get rid of fear. To have that calm courage that can look into the eyes of death and say, oh, here you hide, oh my divine beloved, what a mask you have worn over your face. It doesn't suit you. Why don't you take it off and bring out that smile which is everywhere? This brings the calm courage inside. When you see him everywhere, that is the strength that Savitri brings with her, and that makes her humanity half divine. This is an example for us to follow, God's own example. Calm courage with which we should face life. Her spirit open to the spirit in all. This is the source of her courage, this vastness. Her nature felt all nature as its own, apart, living within, all lives she bore. Aloof she carried in herself the world. The mother living in one room, and sometimes we ignorantly follow that example. Oh, Aurobindo had put himself in one room, so we should also shut ourselves in one room. Much before that, he had realized the divine everywhere. Much before that, he could write, I have wrapped the wide world in my wider self. London and Tokyo and Paris my spirit's seeing are. Man's countless misdeeds and few good deeds take place within my single breast. I am the beast he slays, the bird he feeds and saves. The sorrow of a million throbs within my heart. When we can live in that state, then we can do that, because then we don't have to walk around and act. When a small little incident which is so touching, is so how the divine's inner life is. And we write biography of Aurobindo, biography of the mother, and born on so and so date, and left their body. That once, I believe she was resting, and a lizard comes and falls upon her bosom, and someone rushes to shoo that lizard. She stops and says, "No, I am the mother. I am the mother of this too." In all her busy routine, she has time to come out and feed a crow. She has time to listen to the woes of a tree. We won't even bother when we fell a tree. We won't even think twice. What is there? It's a tree. If human beings come to us with problems, we just, what is it? We are here for sadhana. Don't disturb us. Here is the divine listening to our childlike babbles for hours. Amrita recounts in his story how every day he went and asked Aurobindo, "Lord, can I come?" He said, "Yes, come at so and so time." Every day from 5:30, he writes, "I used to go. I didn't know English." He knew only 3-4 words of English, and with which he could manage to convey. He says for almost 1 hour he was telling something to Sri Aurobindo all about his life, family, everything. And Sri Aurobindo will quietly listen. And he says this carried on for days and weeks and months. Later on he says, "I don't know how he heard all this." If there is the sign of divinity, this is the sign of divinity. If somebody talks to us in a language which we don't understand, our first response is, "I don't know this. You talk to me in this language." Yet we are candidates of a divine humanity. Here is Sri Aurobindo, who knows not a word of Tamil. And here is Amrita, who knows hardly a few words of English. And what a communication must have taken place between the Lord and that little child of 15 or 16. We can't imagine. He has time and patience to listen to a tree. We won't listen to a human being. This is the divinity, the touch of divinity. All lives. And apart from all this, they were attending not just these little tasks. Acting in the midst of the Second World War. Tackling with cosmic forces. And then, when a disciple writes, "Sir, I have sent my letter to you. Last 2 days there is no reply from you." What is written in the letter? "I have a cold, very bad cold." The Lord is not rebuking him. The Lord is writing back almost half apologetically, "I have been busy." Only the divine can be like this. The divine doesn't have to show powers and miracles. His life is an example. In the Gita, Sri Krishna says something very touching. He says, "You know, my life is an example to men." And Sri Aurobindo quotes this. He gives a great significance to divine's own example. In Essays on the Gita, he writes at great length, divine's own example. Here is his own example. The flowers, the trees, the little material objects, everything that came to them, how they received with open arms, with love, in return for all the things that humanity threw. When people threw those stone throwing incident, we all know, somebody through occult means tried to throw stones at Sri Aurobindo. And the magic fell back, and this man was almost on the point of death. And when he knew that it is all because my magic has fallen back, he tells his wife, and she comes rushing to the mother, "Please save him, please save him." The mother goes to the Lord and says, "That man tried to throw stones at you. He is on the deathbed." His wife comes praying for help. Sri Aurobindo says, "What? Death for a few stones?" And he recovers. We can't imagine where we are. If somebody even makes a gesture of that, I'll throw a stone at you, that's good enough. Death for a few stones, only the Lord can speak like this. Even her humanity was half divine. Her dread was one with the great cosmic dread. Her strength was founded on the cosmic mights. The universal mother's love was hers. So we will take a break here.